Gaming Bolt presents 15 games that made the best transition from 2D to 3D.
We have a lot to talk about, so without wasting your time, let us begin right away.
Super Mario 64. Super Mario 64 is the title that proved that games could succeed in 3D. It took the pixel-perfect jumping and action of Super Mario and brought it to open areas with plenty of nooks and crannies to explore. Peach's castle and the dozens of colourful levels all blend together perfectly, creating a seamless experience. Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. The Legend of Zelda has a very recognisable gameplay loop. You enter a dungeon, get an item, and then use that item to solve puzzles and defeat a boss. This pattern was well established by the time Ocarina of Time came around, but it perfectly transitioned it to the third dimension. Grand Theft Auto 3. The first two GTA games featured sprawling open worlds, but the bird's eye view meant that players couldn't see much of it. That all changed with GTA 3. Liberty City was fully realised, fleshed out, and open to explore. It redefined what open world games were and how players interacted with a game world. Final Fantasy VII. Final Fantasy quickly became the biggest RPG franchise in the world, so all eyes were on the PlayStation when Final Fantasy VII arrived on the console. The polygonal graphics, moving models, and intricate cutscenes all showcase what the series could do with the power of 3D. Metroid Prime. When it was announced that Metroid was making the jump to 3D, many were skeptical. But Metroid Prime not only continued what the series had already established, it brought the adventure of Samus Aran into a new perspective. The first-person gameplay feels like an extension of Super Metroid, which solidified what the gameplay of this series would be for years to come. Ninja Gaiden. Ninja Gaiden was one of the toughest, most unforgiving games on the NES. When it made its transition to 3D, it held on to its difficulty. The core of the series was very much intact. Gameplay still revolved around cutting up enemies and jumping over perilous gaps. The series is still known for its absurd difficulty, high learning curve, and fantastic visuals. Metal Gear Solid. Solid Snake got up to a lot of trouble in Metal Gear 2, but he didn't really come into his own until he arrived in Metal Gear Solid. The stealth action took full advantage of the 3D environments, which also allowed Kojima and his team to create a much more cinematic game, one of the first of its kind. Fallout 3. When Bethesda took control of the Fallout franchise, they decided to leave behind the isometric view and tactical gameplay. What we got instead was a first-person RPG that let players experience firsthand the brutality of the wasteland. The addition of the VIII system meant that it didn't have to be a straight shooter and could still retain much of its RPG roots. Warcraft 3. The war between mankind and the orcs looked good back in the day, but Warcraft 3 truly showcased how magical the land of Azeroth was. For the first time, the story could be told more cinematically, the animations were given more detail, and the world itself was littered with tiny details. Pokémon X and Y. Although it may not seem like it, Pokémon was a 2D series until a few years ago. The handheld games had continued to be sprite-based, so when Pokémon X and Y were released in 2013, it was a big deal to see the Pocket Monsters in full 3D. Battles were more ferocious, the story was more dramatic, and the entire experience was more cinematic, something that we didn't even know we wanted in Pokémon. Mario Kart 64. Mario Kart was an instant hit. The tight controls, fun tracks, and dozens of races were a joy to behold. The action was turned up to 11 when Mario Kart 64 hit. The move to 3D made it easier to control, allowed for more terrain variety, and the addition of game types like Battle Mode. Most people remember Duke Nukem for Duke Nukem 3D, but before he was all out of gum, he starred in a 2D side-scroller. The jump to 3D turned Duke into one of the most important video game heroes of the 90s. The crumbling world looked better than ever, and the gruesome action captured the hearts of gamers everywhere. Dragon Quest VIII: Journey of the Cursed King. Dragon Quest is one of the longest-running RPG series in video games. It was always known for its massive worlds and expansive stories, so the move to 3D allowed the series to go all out. The enemies were more terrifying, The towns felt alive, and the gorgeous fantasy worlds felt more vibrant than ever. StarCraft 2. StarCraft still stands as a legendary strategy game, but the graphics don't exactly hold up. It was sometimes hard to distinguish individual troops, and the character models were a little stiff. StarCraft 2 polished up the graphics, gave players intricate cutscenes to gawk at, and plenty of gameplay evolutions that redefined strategy games.
Like this video? Why not give us a like and subscribe? We try and upload amazing videos almost every single day. Thank you for watching this video, and we'll see you on the next one.